William Morrow and HarperAudio present The Windsor Knot, a novel by S.J. Bennett, performed by Jane Copland. For E, and for Charlie and Roz, who combine the pleasure of fiction and the pursuit of truth. Part 1. On y soit qui mal y pense. Evil to him who evil thinks. Motto of the Order of the Garter. 1. April 2016. It was an almost perfect spring day. The air was crisp and clear, the cornflower sky slashed with contrails. Ahead of her, above the tree line of Home Park, Windsor Castle glowed silver in the morning light. The Queen brought her pony to a standstill to admire the view. There is nothing as good for the soul as a sunny morning in the English countryside. After 89 years, she still marvelled at God's work, or evolution's to be strictly accurate. But on a day like this, it was God who came to mind. Of all her residences, if she had to pick a favourite, it would be this one. Not Buckingham Palace, which was like living in a gilded office block on a roundabout. Not Balmoral or Sandringham, though they were in her blood. Windsor was quite simply home. It was the seat of her happiest days of childhood, Royal Lodge, the pantomimes, the rides. It was where one still came at weekends to recover from the endless formality in town. It was where Papa was laid to rest, and darling Mummy too, and Margaret alongside them, though that had been tricky to arrange in the snug little vault. If the revolution ever came, she mused, this was where she would ask to retire. Not that they'd let her. Revolutionaries would probably pack her off. Where? Out of the country? If so, she'd go to Virginia, called after her namesake, and home to Secretariat, who won the Triple Crown in '73. Actually, if it wasn't for the Commonwealth, and poor Charles, and William and little George, so nicely lined up to follow him after all the ghastliness, that wouldn't be such a terrible prospect at all. But Windsor would be best. One could bear anything here. From this distance, the castle looked untroubled, idle and half asleep. It wasn't. Inside, 500 people would be going about their business. It was a village, and a vastly efficient one at that. She liked to think of them all, from the master of the household checking the accounts, to the chambermaids making the beds after last night's little soirée. But today, there was shadow over everything. A performer at the soirée had been found dead in his bed this morning. Apparently he'd died in his sleep. She had met him. Briefly danced with him, in fact. A young Russian, brought in to play the piano. So gifted, so attractive. What a terrible loss for his family. Overhead, a dull roar of engines drowned out the birdsong. From her saddle, the Queen heard a high-pitched whine and glanced up to see an Airbus A330 coming into land. When one lives on a Heathrow flight path, one becomes an expert plane spotter, though knowing all the current passenger jets by silhouette alone was a reluctant party trick. The airplane noise jogged her out of her thoughts and reminded her she needed to get back to her papers. First, she made a mental note to ask after the young man's mother. She wasn't, to be frank, normally that interested in the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?